In this tutorial, I'm going to walk you through exactly how to build a 24/7 Instagram AI chatbot that qualifies your leads, answers their questions, and converts them. If you want to book a call with me, the link is in the video description below. So the first thing that you want to do is visit botpress.com and just create an account by hitting login and then sign up if you don't already have an account on Botpress. But if you do, then just head straight into your Botpress dashboard. So as soon as you create an account, the next thing that you need to do, it will basically send you to a page that looks like this. This is known as your workspace, your Botpress dashboard, but you probably won't have as many chatbots in here as I do. But essentially you'll have one, and what you want to do is just select it. This is the one I'll be working in today, and then you just want to select edit in studio, and it should send you to a page that looks like this. Now, it might prompt you to do a bit of setup with AI by prompting it and essentially telling the chatbot what it should do. This is because Botpress is trying to help you build a chatbot very quickly with AI, but just skip all of that so that you can start from scratch. And I can show you how to build a chatbot that actually converts your leads and doesn't just answer basic questions. Now, before you build any kind of AI chatbot, you need to have a plan. And the reason for this is because when you're building an AI chatbot, especially in Botpress, you can easily get sidetracked and try to add this or try to add that, and you kind of get carried away from your end goal and end up with a very messy project. But if you have a plan, then it's so much easier and quicker to build. And in this plan, essentially, you want to lay out exactly how you want the ideal conversation to flow to get a conversion. So in this tutorial, I will basically be building an AI chatbot for Instagram, but I'll be building it for my business's Instagram page. So its job will be to talk to people about AI chatbots, qualify them to see if their business is ready for an AI chatbot, and then convert them and get them to book a consultation with me. And now we get into building. Let's start with this first section up here, the welcome message, and then differentiating the user as either a new person or an old person. So come back into your studio and just delete the little help video and the autonomous node as well, and we will start with the very first start node. So first of all, we want to see whether the user sent just a message saying hi, or if they asked a question. If they asked a question, we want to first answer the question before moving to the introduction. But if they just said hi, then we want to move straight to the introduction. So in your studio, start by right-clicking and placing a standard node, and then connect the start node to that standard node. And in here, we want to add an AI transition. So search for the AI transition card and then just click it to place it. And the text that you want to categorize is the user's most recent message, which will be stored in the event.preview variable always. So just use 2 curly brackets. And then just like that, you should be able to type in event.preview. And the 2 categories that you want to add are number 1, question, and number 2, greeting. I'll close this and I'll just zoom out a little and move this to the side, just so that I have a little more space to work with. So if they ask a question, essentially we want to first answer their question before we move on. So add a new standard node and then add the knowledge card. Now, if you look for the knowledge card, you will actually not find it. And what that tells you is that your AI chatbot does not have the knowledge agent enabled. So come into this bar on the left and click this little bot icon, agents, and you want to select the knowledge agent and enable it. This will allow your AI chatbot to answer user questions based on the knowledge that you give to it. Now, if you come back to add a card and you search for knowledge, you should get the query knowledge card, and you want to input that, and the query will be the user's most recent message again, since that's the question they've asked. And we just want to start by selecting the variable toggle in the top right, and then over here you can just type in event.preview again. After querying the user's question, we want to then respond with their answer. So first of all, just select a variable, but you'll see there's no variables created yet. So let's just create a variable called answer, and you can leave it as a workflow variable and a string. Then just select enter, come back over here and select answer. And then from here, all we have to do is output the text in answer. So just add a text card by selecting add card, text, and then from there, you can just select this little @ symbol on the right and select workflow.answer. What this means is that when the user sends a question as their first message, the AI will detect it's a question and it will send them up here. This card will use that question and look for a response to it in the knowledge base. and then it will store the response in the workflow.answer variable, and then this text card will output whatever is stored in the workflow.answer variable in response to the user's question. But if they sent a greeting, we want to just skip all of this without having them go through the question part. So I'll add a third node here, and I'll just connect this down here, and also connect this third one over here. And then this will also eventually come out to here as well. Now, if I look back into my plan, I need to be able to basically send the user either to the left or to the right, depending on if they are a new user or not. Here's how you can do that inside your AI chatbot. So now over here is where we will send the user to different branches depending on if they are new or old. So you want to select add card, and once again search for the AI transition card. Add it in here, and the text that we want to categorize is the user.status variable. So select the at, and then select user.status. And the two categories that we shall have are old and new. Now come back into the user.status variable, select this little pen icon on the left on the right to edit it, and then select additional settings and set the default value to new. So what this means is that by default, everyone is a new user. After their first conversation, they will change and become an old user. So over here, we want to again add two branches. So add an autonomous node, right click and add another autonomous node as well. And then this one will send people who are old up here, and then this other one will cater for people who are new or otherwise. Now let's just test what we built so far by adding a text card up here and just saying you are old. And then down here we shall add another text card and say you are new. So you can see if I say hi, it takes me through here and down here, because first of all it detects it's a greeting and then flows me through here, and then knows that I'm a new user and flows me down through here and tells me that you are new. Now every single person can only be a new user once. That's on their first conversation. So we can delete this card that I was using to test it, and we want to change their status and make them an old user after their first interaction. So select add card and search for code, the execute code card, add that in, come into the card, and then in this section down here in the bottom left where you can get the AI to generate code for you, tell it to set the user.status variable to old. It should automatically generate it for you, and then all you have to do is accept that change, and now it will have set the user.status variable. So what that will do is it will set the user's status to old after they have flown through this part. And this is actually a key part of the AI chatbot's logic, so we can test it out. If I say hi, it should flow me down here, and it has. But if I say hi again, it should have changed my status to old, so I should flow up here instead, and it has done that. So that works. So we've basically finished this first part. And now the next part is, let's start with the left, the new user intro. So from here, you just want to create an introduction to your bot, introducing it to the users so that they kind of understand what it's about. Now, most businesses make the mistake of skipping this part and allowing the user to talk to their AI chatbot without it introducing itself. But there's two problems with this. Number one, if your AI chatbot is very human-like, certain users might mistake it for talking to a human, and then it might lead to them feeling a little uncomfortable after when they find out that it was an AI. So we don't want that to happen. And then also the second reason why is if you want to make your AI chatbot actually sound human, you probably should get it to introduce itself with a name and like a personality. So that's the exact thing that we want to create and replicate at this point. So pretend that your AI chatbot is like the dream employee that you want to hire at your business, and just think of a name that you'd want them to have. It really doesn't matter, but then also think about the personality, which I had talked about at the beginning of this video in the planning section, and we shall build an introduction message based on that. If we come back here, you can see that my AI chatbot is energetic and funny, never uses emojis, and uses short sentences and keeps it sharp and concise. So I want to mirror this personality in this introduction. So this first text card can just be a greeting, and then the chatbot introducing itself with a name. And then the second card can be the chatbot telling the user that it is an AI chatbot. So you can see the second message, I'm an AI chatbot for Ivy Flow AI, and then a little joke added as well, because I'm trying to make a funny chatbot to fit the personality. And that's literally all you have to do for the introduction. So if we come into this, we can now change the color of this to green.
Now the next thing that we want to do according to the plan is get the user's details, their name, their email, their business name. And this is basically for the purpose of me being able to reach out to this user even if they don't complete the conversation or convert. And if they do convert, this is so that I don't have to ask them for this information again later on in the journey. So to do this, I will add a new workflow. So come into the left panel again and go to workflows just under the home button. And you want to create a new workflow, and I will call this, right click and then rename, and I will call this get user details. Now you might be wondering, why am I creating a new workflow? Well, if we come into the main workflow, you can kind of see that, okay, it's not too bad now, but it's starting to get a little crowded in here. And if we just continue building in this one workflow, we might expand out and it might end up taking all this space, and it will become a little messier in the process and harder to understand. When you're building an AI chatbot, you want to build it so that it's easy for you to come back into it and do maintenance, change things, and kind of understand the customer's journey as they flow through it. This is because when you look at your conversation analytics later on, you might notice a few botches or errors in the conversations or mistakes that the AI chatbot is making. And you need to be able to know where those mistakes are happening and go into your AI chatbot and fix them as soon as possible. But if you have a messy workflow because you've built everything in one place, which I've made the mistake of doing before, that will be very difficult for you to do. So now, to link this workflow over here to this main one, all you have to do is right click, create a standard node, and we'll connect that here. And then in the add card, we want to add the get user details. So just search for the workflow name here, and it should have a card that has been created for it. And Flow Logic, click that, and it should go through. And then you'll notice this little branch on the side goes green to tell you that that workflow is now active. It's now connected to the main workflow, and so users can flow into it. Now, coming into the get user details workflow, the way workflows work is that you enter through an entry node, and then you exit from an exit node. And when you exit, you spawn exactly at this exit point, and then you can continue with your flow. So you can essentially think of this one card as a condensation of everything you're going to build in here. So anything you can build in here is essentially building inside one card, because when a user enters this one card over here, they will automatically be shot into this workflow, and then they will flow through anything that you build here and then exit and come back out through here. So you can think of workflows as like different worlds, and then these cards are like portals to take you from one world to another. But that's a very simplistic explanation of how they work. So essentially now go back into the get user details workflow, and we want to actually collect the user's name, email, and business name. But as always, when you collect something, you need a place to put it. So we need to create variables for those. So come into the bottom left, select new variable, scope, we want to change it to user, and this is because a user variable stays attached to a user, and that is what we want. You see, with a workflow variable, if a user switches from this workflow to this one, the values of the variables that were previously stored as they were here will completely be erased, and when they come back, they will be reset. But with a user variable, it attaches that variable to the specific user. So no matter if they start a new conversation, no matter if they go to a different workflow along the conversation, that variable value remains the same unless changed explicitly by you and is attached to that user. This is exactly what we want for things like the user's name, email, business name, because we don't want to continuously have to keep asking them these questions. It gets irritating, and it kind of shows that the AI chatbot is not really smart. It's not really paying attention to what the user's saying. So in the same way that if you meet someone new, you'd want to take their name and actually remember it, so that you don't have to embarrass yourself and ask them later, you want to get your AI chatbot to do the same by attaching that name to a user variable. So create a new variable, change the scope to user, and then let's start by creating name. I'll be collecting just their first name, so I'll actually change this to fname. The next variable we'll be collecting is their email, also a user variable and a string. So I'll just put that in, email, and then the final one is their business name. Perfect. oops, I set that one as a workflow variable, so I'll just change that to a user variable. There we go. So now from here, we want to now collect those details by talking to the user, asking them for it, and then storing them appropriately here. You can do this using standard nodes, but I'll do this with an autonomous node because it is much faster. So right click, select autonomous node, and you'll get this little node with a purple autonomous logo at the top. Autonomous nodes are nodes that are controlled by AI, and so essentially you can just give it a prompt and it will automatically talk to the user, send messages, ask questions, etc., depending on what the instructions you've given it, without you having to essentially create all those text cards and all the different messages it will send out. Because you see in the main workflow, that's what we did here. We told it to say, hi, I'm Benny, I'm an AI chatbot for Ivyflow AI. But in an autonomous node, you would just tell it, your name is Benny, introduce yourself to the user, and it would automatically generate the message and autonomously converse with the user. But in this case, we shall be using it to just collect the user's details, because when I build with Botpress, I don't like to give the AI too much control. Otherwise, it just begins to sound like any other AI chatbot. It loses the personality that we're trying to build into the AI chatbot. So start by connecting the entry nodes to the autonomous node. And then you want to add a transition to exit, to allow the user to exit the autonomous node. So select add transition, and we'll just call this completed. And then, so completed. And then if we tap out, we should see that there. And then we can connect that to the exit. And now we want to give this autonomous node access to these three variables so that it can edit them. So select add variable. By the way, to view this inspector page, you need to first click on the autonomous node and it should come up, and then select add variable, and then add fname, add email, and add business name, and give write access for all of these so that it can actually write information into these variables. In the case that a user asks a question while they're in this stage, we'll also want to give it knowledge so it can answer. So just select add knowledge and all KBs. And that will basically give it access to all the knowledge in your knowledge bases. Now that that's done, all we have to do is give it the instructions to collect these details and to answer users' questions in case they ask them using the knowledge base. So select instructions. Once you're in the instructions, just copy this prompt into it. And to add these purple tags, all you have to do is essentially come over here and then look for what you're referring to. So store their name in the name variable. So if we come over here, I can see on the variables, the fname variable is here. And if you just click that, it should appear here as a purple card so that it knows exactly where to put the details. And it's the same thing for the transition to the completed card. So if I delete this, all you have to do is type transition to the, and then scroll down until you see transitions, and the completed card should be down there. And then for the search knowledge thing, it's the same exact thing, and all you have to do is select this all KBs under search knowledge. Once that's done, all you have to do is select escape, and we are done with that stage. And by the way, if you want to test that part, because I like to build while testing, to test as I go, all you have to do is detach this start node from that first one. Just bring it here briefly and then connect it to the get user details so that they flow immediately from the start into that workflow, and then just start a conversation and it should send you immediately into the get user details workflow, and you should be able to go through the process of getting your name and email and business name asked and requested and stored by the AI chatbot, just to test whether this part works. But as soon as you're done with that, make sure that you exit from here. You detach it from here and you drag it back to the start so that all users actually start from the correct place. And you can kind of repeat that process if you want to test any other part of this logic. Just detach the start node from there and attach it to the part you want to test, just so that you don't have to go through all of this just to get through here. It can get a little tedious, but if you are looking to test the entire thing that you built so far, you can just go ahead and start a conversation while it's there. So coming back into the plan, we can now take this part as well. And the next thing that we want to do is move into qualification. That's what these two sections are for. Therefore, asking the user questions to basically qualify them and understand whether they're the kind of person that my business wants to work with. So once again, for the sake of keeping this neat and organized, I will create a new workflow and I will rename this to qualify. And then I will attach that here. I can create a new standard node for it, but because you can have multiple cards in one node, all I'll do is actually add the card here. So I'll search for qualify, and when a user exits this get user details node, because I've not attached this to anything, they will just flow downwards onto the next card in the node, which means they will enter the qualify workflow. So I don't have to create a new standard node and place this here. Instead, I can just place this over here and keep things a little more compact. The first qualification question my AI chatbot needs to ask is, does your business need an AI chatbot? So if you come over here, what I'll do is I'll add a card and I'll search for raw input, select it, and then just type in the question. I can store their result in a response variable, but because either way it's going to be stored by default in the event.preview variable, I won't waste any time creating that. But instead over here, I now want to basically add the AI that will decide where to send the user depending on their response. So search for an AI task. And the reason we're using an AI task this time is because we can give it more context and more instructions to basically help it make a better decision on where to send the user. If we use an AI transition, you'll notice that this space that they give you to essentially create categories is very limited. It's basically like a few words to create a category, but we want to give the AI more context on the question that the user was asked, so that it can kind of look at the question, look at the user's response, and then come to a very good conclusion on where it should send the user. So first of all, you want to create a new variable. This one will be a workflow variable because it doesn't really matter if it gets cleared as the user changes workflows. And we will actually set this to a number and call it output. Now, in the AI task instructions, you want to type this. Type the following instructions in. Basically, what you're telling it to do is analyze the user's response to the question, which you've told it over here. And then depending on what the user's response is, it will either store 1, 2, or 3 in the result variable. And then from there, it will use that result variable and be able to send the user to different directions. So first of all, we need to give it access to the input. So we will type in user's message and then just put in the double curly brackets with event.preview. And the output message, the result variable is workflow, is the workflow.output variable. So just select that and it should be fine. So now it will analyze the user's response, and if the answer is yes, it will store 1 in this variable. If it's no, it will store 2 in this variable, and if it's unclear or if they asked a question, it will store 3 in this variable. Now what we can do is use expression cards to send the users to different places. So I'll add card, search for expression. Once again, disable the generative AI for that field, and I'll change the condition to firstly, workflow.output is equal to 1. Make sure you use the double equals, otherwise it won't work because this relies on JavaScript code, and that's kind of the correct notation that it uses to function. And then you can change the second card to workflow.output equals 2. And then for the third one, you can just not add a card because by default, if it's not 1 or 2, then that means it's 3. So you can see over here in my prompt, if their answer was yes, then it will store 1. So for yes, let's send them up here. And by the way, you can also rename the nodes. So I'll actually change this to yes, just to help you work better when you're building. And then if it's no, it will send them down here because they selected that. And anything else would come down here. But you might be wondering, why did I add a third one over here? Won't most people reply with either yes or no? That's true, but if we're building an AI chatbot that actually sounds like a human and people enjoy talking to, people will talk to it like they're talking to a human. And what that means is that they don't always respond directly to questions. Think about the last conversation you had with like a friend or a family member. You know, sometimes they ask you a question And instead of you responding yes or no to that question, you respond with a question of your own. For example, they might ask you, would you be interested in going to dinner tonight? And then instead of responding yes or no, you might ask them, what time are you available? It's the same exact thing with an AI chatbot, and so this third part is meant to handle those other questions or statements and basically answer the question first with an appropriate response before getting the user to come back to the original question they were asked and give a yes or no statement. So basically all we have to do here is just add the query knowledge base card. So select add card, search for query knowledge base, input the user's most recent message once again by selecting the variable toggle, add the double brackets, and then put in event.preview. Get used to using this event.preview variable. The reason I use it is because it always stores the user's most recent message no matter where they are in the conversation. So I just find it more convenient than having to create a different variable and store the user's most recent message there when Botpress has already done it for us. But you won't see it down here because it's kind of inbuilt into the Botpress AI chatbot. So it's kind of like one of those expert secrets that you learn as you build more on Botpress. But anyways, after querying the user's most recent message, we just want to store that in an answer variable. So I'll just create a variable and call that answer workflow, a string, and we'll just enter and then come over here and select answer. And then using a text card, we'll just output that answer to the user. Select the @ icon, workflow.answer. And then I'll connect this back here. So what this will do is essentially it will come down here if the user asks a question, answer their question with a text message, first by querying it and then producing the text message, and then it will loop back and ask them this question again. Does your business need an AI chatbot? So that it can attempt to get a yes or no out of them and send them down one of these two paths. Now actually if their answer is no, then there's no more questions for me to ask them. So essentially I'll just right click this, delete this, and I'll actually exit them from the node. So I'll right click, select exit, and I'll put that here to send them out of the workflow. Not node. So I'll exit them from the workflow. But if it's a yes, I'll send them up here to the next question, the next qualification question. And just like that, we're done with this stage. So I'll change this to green as well. And the next qualification question is, do you have 10,000 plus website visitors or DMs to your socials per month? And we actually want to just duplicate this entire thing over here because we're essentially gonna build it with the same structure. So I'll just right click this, copy node, right click, paste node, and I'll delete this one and in fact connect this up here and just rename this to yes. But over here, I will change the question to, does your business get 10,000 website visitors per month or DMs to your socials per month? And then that will mean I also have to edit the instructions in the AI task that basically comprehends their response. I've changed the instructions and I've just edited them a little bit to make sure it can comprehend this response and send them down appropriate paths for if their answer is yes, no, or if their answer is unclear. You can replicate this structure across any place in your AI chatbot where you're asking the user a question. The reason I find it very efficient is because it gets the response from the user and then can use that to make a decision. But at the same time, in case a user doesn't give a response or asks a question, it doesn't just get confused and die off like most other AI chatbots out there. But it first answers the user's question, responds to it the correct way, and then comes back to the original conversation to try to keep it flowing in a direction. So all you have to do is recreate this node over here and just hook it up to the bottom again and then loop it back to the beginning as well so that it just does the same thing as in this first section. But then over here, if the user has said yes to this question, essentially about how many visitors, how much traffic they have inbound per month to their business, then we want to send them up here and basically tell them that we want to work with them. Actually, coming back to my plan, you can see that it tells me that I should offer them a free consultation offer. That's what I had planned for. So that's exactly what I will build in the AI chatbot as well. But before I get back, I just want you to notice how easy it is to build an AI chatbot and how streamlined everything is once you have a clear plan. You can see that it's literally, we don't have to think about anything because we've already done the thinking at the start. It's literally just replicating this inside Botpress with a little bit more detail. So before you start any AI chatbot, make sure you have a plan. But if you don't know how to build a plan for your AI chatbot, book a call with me so that we can plan out the perfect conversation structure to convert the leads on your Instagram, your website, or any other socials of yours before we build it inside Botpress. So coming back in here, I will just create text cards to offer them a free consultation. So you can see I've just said, nice, we'd love to work with you, and then book a free consultation with us here, and then a booking link would be placed there. Now, there's multiple ways to get the user to convert and to actually take an action inside your AI chatbot. In this instance that I'm building, I'll just be inputting a link. You can do the same and just paste a link to your Calendly or whatever to get someone to book an appointment with you. But you can also use the Google Calendar integration, which I'm soon to make a video on. So make sure you're subscribed so that you can essentially get the user to book an appointment directly to your calendar from the chat. So the bot will basically tell them available times and they can select a time. And there's also other ways to do it. The user can just submit their details, for example, and then the bot can automatically take things like their name, business name, and email and send that to your CRM and notify you as well. So there's very many ways to get the user to take an action and to essentially have them make like a purchase or a booking or whatever. But in this instance, I'll just keep it simple and we'll just be giving them a link that they can click on and go ahead and make the booking there. And once they've done that, we will actually exit them from this workflow. And now the only part remaining is if they don't have that traffic to their business, they will flow through workflow.output equals 2 in accordance with this the instructions given to the AI task. And we basically just want to give them a quick sad sorry message to say sorry, we only work with businesses that already have high traffic, because that's when an AI chatbot makes sense. And then we'd also send them to the exit. And it's literally the same thing, just the messages are different. It's a little sad and sorry message telling them that we only work with businesses that fit a certain criteria. And then you can basically explain briefly to them why, and then tell them maybe to reach out when they're ready. But the reason that I don't put all of this text into one text card is because you have to think about the nature of the platform you're building for. If you're building an AI chatbot for Instagram, people who are sending messages on Instagram don't send paragraphs to each other that often. But if I was to put all this text into one card, it would come out as a paragraph into the chat. But instead, it will come out broken up, so as 3 different messages. And that's a little more natural to the platform and just feels a little bit more normal and less AI. And that's the objective behind a build like this. So please, if you're building AI chatbots for messaging platforms, try to make them actually enjoyable to talk to and not have them send like weird paragraphs into the chat, because users can find that annoying, or other times they just completely don't read it as well and they just completely disregard it, which is not what we want. From there, we'll also just send them to the exit to leave that workflow. And what that means is that all those people will come out and jump out of these exit points in this qualify card, because they've just come from the qualify workflow. Now you realize in the qualify workflow we have 2 exits. We have this first exit over here, exit number 1, and we also have exit, just the normal exit, the basic exit card. And if I was to add another exit card, you would also see that reflect as well as a third possible exit point. So you can use these exit points to basically send the user to different places depending on where they left the old workflow from. So I won't be doing this in this build, but that's just for your knowledge in case you have an idea that pops up and a use case that you can use that for. But for all of these users exiting from here, I would want to send them to standard 7. And so I won't connect it to any of these, but I'll just allow all of them to skip. I'll allow the AI chatbot to skip all these exit points and just exit from the default bottom one of the card, which means that everyone who passes through here will exit through the bottom and come up here. Great, so we've basically done the left side. The next part is the right side of the conversation for old users. And you'll notice here in the studio, I've kind of already started. Basically, I've added a question, how may I help you? And then a wait for user input card. Now you'll notice in the qualify workflow, we used these raw input cards and just added a question here because it's a listening card, meaning it will automatically listen to the user for the user's response before proceeding after asking the question. But in the main workflow, our question is in a text card, meaning it won't listen to the user after outputting this message to the chat. It's just like sending a normal message. So we have to force the AI chatbot to listen after sending this message And that's why I added this wait for user input card. So there's different ways that you can do it. But in the plan, you can see that after asking the user, how may I help you, which we have done, we basically want to ask them if they want to book a consultation. We want to analyze their response and see if they want to book a consultation. But if it's anything else, such as asking a question, it would send them down this way. And I actually forgot to do the old user intro, so let me do that now. For the old user intro, I'll just copy this card, paste it here, move it to the top, and I'll change this to hi, welcome back. And in fact, in case it has their name, I'll actually add it over here and say user.fname, such it refers to them as their name. But if their name is empty, it will just say hi. Because this will be empty, it will literally just go hi and then the exclamation mark and then welcome back. But it's tiny touches like this that make your AI chatbot feel more personalized and make users enjoy it more, because it actually feels like it remembers the user and it has some kind of personal relationship with the user when they come back and start a new conversation a few days later after talking to it for the first time. So try to implement stuff like this in different places around your AI chatbot, where it either uses the user's name, maybe uses their business name, or perhaps brings up any other information or context really that they may have mentioned before, as it will show the user that your AI chatbot is actually listening to them and personalizes its responses, rather than just being like very generic and chat GPT like. So from here, we'll use an AI transition, and basically I'll categorize their most recent input. So once again, curly brackets and event.preview. And then I will basically only add one category, and I will say consultation. And I'll add a comma, and I'll also say book. Actually, I'll just say book consultation. And so if they want to book a consultation, it will send them down here to get their details and qualify them. But if not, it will just send them from here to this other node. But then I realized a problem. I realized that if they say they want to book a consultation, it will bring them down here and collect their details, but they might have collected their details. The bot might have collected their details already. If they are an old user, they might have already gone through this flow. But really, the only card I want them to go into is the qualify card, because I wanted to qualify everyone who's trying to book a new appointment. So I'll just split this into two standard nodes. So I'll put this one here, I'll connect this one here instead, and then this over here. And so from here, it will flow down to book a consult. If they want to book a consultation, it will flow into the qualifying one instead of the get user details one. It's the same exact thing. After getting their details, it sends them to the qualify workflow, and so on and so forth, if they are a new user. But if they are an old user, it skips getting their details because their details were probably already gotten. And if they want to book a consultation, instead it just sends them to the qualify workflow down here. And over here, I'll just add a log card. This will not send a message, but it will just write a note to the logs. Now your logs are this text field that you see down here. It's essentially like a big notepad that your AI chatbot keeps and writes everything it does to it. So essentially you can kind of use this to keep track of where the users are, because you can see it kind of tells you where everyone goes, starting from main flow, transition to here. So it kind of tells you exactly what the AI chatbot is doing at every point. And it's mainly used for debugging. So if an error was to happen in the conversation, it would reflect here, and it would allow you to catch it. It would tell you where it was, probably which workflow it was in as well, and then you can go and try and fix it. So that's what the logs is useful for, especially when building. But over here, you can also just manually write things to the logs, such as user is now going to autonomous conversation, and the level, you can set that as a debug code, an info, a warning, or an error. But I'll just put that as an info, and it would write that to the logs as soon as the user reaches this part. So we've now done these two parts, and the last thing we have to do is just set up autonomous conversation. So just right click, create an autonomous node, and then we will connect this here and just give it these instructions. First of all, actually you want to give it access to the knowledge base by selecting add knowledge and all KBs in case someone asks a question, so that it can answer it. And then come back here, and I basically told it to be a friendly AI chatbot for Ivyflow AI. I've told it the task to just chat with the user and provide them with information. And if the user asks questions, it should answer all questions using the search knowledge tool. And then I'll put in brackets that and all KBs. And I'll close that. So now you'll notice that I don't use the end node, and so I don't explicitly send users to end the conversations. But this can be problematic because it means you just leave a bunch of open conversations all the time. So a user who ends a conversation here, because the conversation is never explicitly ended, if they come back to the chat maybe like a week later, instead of starting them from the very beginning, it will start them from where they stopped, and that's not always what we want. So I'll change the bot settings over here instead to an inactivity timeout of 60 minutes. And what that means is that if a user comes into autonomous conversation, they talk for a bit, and then 60 minutes pass without a message going between the user or the AI chatbot, it will automatically end the conversation, which is what we want, without having to send them here. And just like that, we are done. All of them are green, and we have officially completed this AI chatbot build. The next two things that we have to do are extremely important. Number one, adding knowledge to your AI chatbot. And number two, connecting it to Instagram. I'll start with the knowledge thing. Start by going into the left panel and select the book icon for knowledge bases, and then select create a new knowledge base and just give it a name. I'll just call this one main KB. And then it should take you to a page that looks like this. I'll just close these, and then you can upload knowledge sources. So you can paste in a link to your website, so it automatically extracts knowledge and information from there. You can upload documents in these formats to it. You can upload a table. You can create a table. You can get it to do a web search, or you can even do rich text and just type in text directly to it immediately. So just make sure that you get whatever information you need to get inside your AI chatbot. Just make sure you do it over here, and make sure you give it as much as it needs to be able to help users, support them, answer their questions. So this includes information about your business, information about your niche, perhaps even advice that you would give to the people who ask you questions on DMs. And just make sure that it's essentially like an employee. So all the information that you would give to a new employee who would handle your Instagram account, just make sure that you put all of that information here, and you keep it updated so that your AI chatbot doesn't grow old and is always able to answer users' message to the best of its ability. And that's literally it for the knowledge part. The next thing, and the second last thing we have to do is integrating it to Instagram. And it's super easy. The first thing you want to do is just sign into your business's Instagram account on the web. So just go to instagram.com and sign in, and make sure you have a professional business account on Instagram, not just a regular Instagram account, but a business account. And then from there, all you have to do is, once you've signed into Instagram on the web, you can close that tab and then come into the integration hub on Botpress. And integrations are essentially connections to other apps and messaging channels that you can use inside your AI chatbot. So you can search for Instagram, or just scroll down a little and you'll see it over here under communication and channels. Select it, and you want to install the integration to your AI chatbot. It should be very quick, and once it's installed, you want to connect with Auth. So select that, and it will open up a little tab on the side over here. I previously connected it to my Instagram account, so it's asking me if I would like to continue sharing information. But if it's your first time, it's the same kind of thing. Just select allow, and you should see a little tag that says authorization successful, and just like that, it should be done. So you can now close this once it's connected. And the last thing you have to do, please don't forget to do this, because otherwise you will have wasted all of your time, is publish. So publish your changes. This will basically publish the latest version of the bot, so everything that you just built over here, to web chat and Instagram, meaning people can now begin to interact with it over those platforms. Give it a few seconds and you should see bot published successfully, and then you're finally done. Perhaps the last thing you might want to do is download a backup of your AI chatbot, because I've been in situations where I've lost my work because of a stupid mistake. But you always want to have a backup, so just select the Botpress icon in the top left, import/export, and then export, and it should download a file that you can just keep somewhere on your laptop in case you need to restore a backup, and in that case all you would have to do is come back into the same thing in a new Chatbot project, import/export, and then just import from file and select that file that you downloaded, and that's literally it. You're done. You can go ahead and test your AI chatbot over Instagram to see how it interacts. You can go ahead and test it over here as well to make sure everything it says is perfect. But the truth, honestly, is that when you build an AI chatbot, it's probably not going to be perfect on the first part. But if you want to build a perfect AI chatbot, the only way to make it get better is to put it in real conversations with users and then continuously keep improving it based on the mistakes that it makes. But the only way to do that is if you can actually see the conversations that are happening inside your AI chatbot. So I'd recommend that you watch my next video up here on how to integrate your AI chatbot to Airtable so that you can build an interface and a kind of database to track all conversations inside Airtable, log them, and use that information to make decisions on how to improve your AI chatbot and your business.